Hello, everyone. Welcome to this MLS Connect call. And this session is about using MLS with any technique. This is a fantastic topic and fantastic question that can come about. If you are in MLS leadership, then you often get to field that question of, well, what is MLS, right? And well, if it's not a technique, then what is it? And all this kind of stuff. So communication is of utmost importance. And I think this Zoom call will really help to have a deeper and better understanding and grasp on how MLS is improving the lives of so many, whether that's in your practice or in your life, or the people you're serving every day. So we will jump right in. So I've already just put together some bullet points, and these are just some quick smatterings. We could go down an hour-long Zoom call on each one of these points. But the first thing that Arno is bringing to the profession through the Mastery, Love, and Service movement, the MLS training programs, is integrity and professionalism. And so that professionalism runs through every aspect, whether it's how you do business, what your visit looks like. Is this something in your practice that got put in there just because a practice management agency said that could help you get more people? And so conscious languaging of, do you want to be gotten? Do you want me to get you? Or do you want to be attractive by the level of skills, the mastery and integrity that you are showing to the world, and attract people to your practice? And certainly these are the integrity and professionalism will weave through everything that we're going to talk about. Another point is congruency with the philosophy. We will get to a slide where we talk about what Arno brought forth as a cafe of life, vitalistic model of practice, a blueprint for that. And it's really being able to check in with everything, whether it's your questionnaires or intake forms, your languaging, your protocols and techniques, and how you're using them. Are they congruent with the philosophy and principle of chiropractic? And so it's just a great question to continue ask. And no matter what it is, if we're constantly asking ourselves, why am I doing what I'm doing? Is a healthy venture.
A really simple version of that is, how many intake forms have you seen or you might use that say auto accident? Well, if there's a universal intelligence and all matter consistently giving to it all its properties and actions, then there aren't accidents. Mine says auto collisions. I absolutely want to know if they have gotten into a fender bender, or if they've gotten T-boned, or if their car has rolled several times into a ditch. But I don't want to feed even subconsciously into the idea of an accident. So that's just a really simple version of, are we congruent with our philosophy or not in everything that we do?
Conscious languaging. And so is your care to empower people and free people, or bind them to you and your practice? Are you following the long contracts? And I'm not talking about steering away from giving a real care plan, but is it really in a binding nature of getting people, binding them to, not letting them go? So in this using MLS with all techniques, artist versus technician. And the MLS movement is helping us to be more in the artist realm versus just kind of a sterile, dry technician going through the motions of a technique protocol, which is very, very fun. And empowering, not only for the practitioner, but for the people we're serving. And on any given day, Kiara and the rest, if a chiropractor could come in and see me using 2, 3, 4, 5 techniques on a person in a visit, and that's just how I dance around the different protocols for what is showing up in the moment. You ask any of the practice members here what technique we're using, none of them could answer you. And that's because I don't have an allegiance technique. My allegiance is to them in helping them get their results and to use the techniques as a vehicle to clear the neurospinal system. So what does applying the MLS approach, how does that give your technique superpowers, as I'm enjoying saying it. And the one thing that everybody knows about coming to train with MLS is that we're preparing the practitioner's body mind, and so we're having chiropractic centric exercises that we do, warm ups that we do, breath work that we do to bring ourselves into present time consciousness and peak state. So right there, Kiara, is, you know, like name a technique, activator, right? Thompson, whatever you want to do. If you are utilizing the MLS approach, then who you are coming to the table versus what technique you're bringing to the table is paramount. And we could do an hour-long Zoom call on what that even means and how that affects the outcome of serving somebody.
Yeah, I love that because that's basically what I wanted to say. I just didn't know how to say it because the person that asked me how to incorporate this, well, I kind of went that way. You just before even starting to, connect and put your hands, butterfly touch, etc. So yeah, like it makes sense. It makes total sense that that's basically the root of us, of MLS, and how we see things and why we're different.
Yeah. And so a lot of the cornerstones, the impeccable footwork that we're training, the level of visualization, that's really going to be something to lean into as huge. The biodynamics and the biomechanics, having a deep knowledge of the inner workings on that. So again, whether it's diversified or Gonstead, for the training through MLS, typically we see that the practitioner has a much deeper level of visualization and understanding of the biomechanics, and therefore able to hit the mark much cleaner, much faster, and more effectively, using a Gonstead, using a diversified, something like that. And I'm just going to keep kind of blowing through these because it's really quite straightforward. And there's the deep listening skills. So we do our seminars largely in silence. So I don't think that's very common, or at least didn't used to be. And because we're really developing our listening and our ability to read the being who we're serving and the many multidimensional layers of them that they have. And so with the MLS training, again, whatever technique is being used, whether it's a BGI or toughness or TRT or CBP or Pierce, having the appropriate force application, the depth, the amplitude, where there's rapport, what order to potentially serve in, even if it might be counter to the textbook protocol of that technique, there are appropriate times to call an audible of a protocol. And I love protocols and techniques because it can really ground the practitioner, especially for those of you who have chosen to step into realms of facilitating, if you want to call it a deeper level of core healing, but maybe that's just having more awareness and a conversation and a dialogue, whether it's inner or not, about the layers of mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual aspects of somebody's healing that's available. That's when having something to anchor to in a protocol, when things can get pretty heavy or deep and the energy can get really, really big, to have that protocol to anchor to is a very positive thing. If anybody wants to comment on that slide or any aspects there on how, where you see yourself on a day-to-day basis using certain techniques that you're like, oh yeah, they didn't teach me this when I learned this technique, but through MLS and seeing that technique through that lens, I'm able to appropriately apply these types of things much more effectively than I see maybe others doing.
Well, sometimes it could be as simple as you get a very clear read that it is C2 body left. and you go to set it up on supine, and because of the listening, because of how grounded, centered and open-hearted you are, you lay your hands to do a supine cervical and the entire system is freaking out. The entire system has entered a sympathetic tone. It is locking itself down. The muscles are guarding. Or something as simple as there's just not the same rapport there. There's so much meningeal torque in that position that it's like, great, let's call the audible of doing it as a toggle, or sitting them up and doing it as either a seated or a Gonstead style cervical chair adjustment. Because with this approach, it allows you to be in full connection with the person you're serving. It's like being able to draw from all of the different force applications you've learned based on what's most appropriate, not based on, well, I learned it this way and that means it has to be done this way. Because when whether it's Donnie with Network, whether it's Clarence with Gonstead, whether it's Clay with Thompson, whether it, pick your favorite, in teaching it, they had to come up with what is the most logical thing and the most common things, but there are always variations, and the law of infinite variety is absolutely at play, and therefore being able to be in full present time with the person to read. Yeah, supine cervical for you today, not a good idea. This is absolutely counterindicated by everything that your system is telling me, even if the system is also giving very clear indicators, C2 body left. So it's a matter of going, okay, cool, this still needs to be cleared. We're still going to do it, but we're not going to do it supine. Does that make sense to everybody so far?
Beautiful.
Cool.
Beautifully said, Nathan. Carrying on with that is one of our mantras, GHDP, gentle and honoring, and deep and powerful. And so, for people training or utilizing this approach for any amount of time, you will start hearing all the comments. Wow, I've never had that like that before. And or wow, I didn't know that could be so gentle. I was serving at an event this weekend, and these are people who I'm meeting randomly, and some of them you could tell were very nervous, and they've been roughed up before. No matter what technique somebody was using, they've been roughed up because the person was just coming with whatever. Not very good listening. They were not in peak state. They were not in present time consciousness. And they overdid something. They violated people. And that's why this thing used to be called making love to the spine. It's like, please stop doing that. There's so many people who have been turned off from chiropractic from sloppy and mediocre adjustments. And I had people also tell me this weekend that they've had several chiropractors be extremely inappropriate, sexually inappropriate with them. So we're going back to number one: integrity, finesse, comfort. These things are going to lead to easier referrals, and really the parents are going to hand their children over to you and ask you to check them when they see how you can adjust them with so much finesse and comfort. Because going back, Kiara, I'm going to ask you that. Here's your quiz. What is one of the foundational things of MLS on how we, in our normal chiropractic lexicon, will be how we set them up? Go.
How we set them up, like,
yeah, not a trick question. What are we helping them find, and how are we setting them up?
Ease.
Yes, see, it was not a trick question. Ease, right? So physiological peace and ease is like the cornerstone of MLS. No matter what technique you are using, to be able to know if every hair on their head, every hair on their toes, and everything in between is in physiological peace or ease. And so there might be a technique that shows you to take something to tension. Well, you've learned through MLS that is not necessary and actually is aberrant to getting the result that you're actually looking for. We talked a little bit about the Cafe of Life Vitalistic Blueprint. I don't want to go too much into that because this is more about techniques, but it all relates, okay? And that's the DC, really finding an authentic expression of who you are, from having vitalistic, life-informing, laws of life-informing artwork in your office to maybe not wearing a white coat and a stethoscope around your neck, which some chiropractors do. Yes, we get into stuff as far as self-pay versus third-party contracts with people. and giving you permission to dance with techniques as you get your experience built up more and more. Does anybody want to chime in and kind of talk about what you have heard in this call that has stirred something in you to say, oh, yes, man, when I'm doing this technique, oh my God, the training from MLS really informs me on how to do this. Anybody, the floor is open.
The other day I was practicing Gonstead, and I was actually visualizing a little bit further than I had been before because of MLS and the practice. And then, like, I noticed that I don't have to be as hard as they tell me to be, because I don't like that. And MLS has taught me not to do that. So I was showing others because they were like, oh my God, you're still there, but you're not that pokey, or you're not that intense or whatnot. And I'm like, yeah, and I can go deeper. So just don't do as hard mushy gushy, and just explaining that to them. Like, it feels good to be able to open people's eyes to this because they need it.
Beautiful. Great example of you're in a technique club or class and everybody's looking at you going, what are you doing? That you're making it look so easy, so effortless, and you're not jacking up the system with all the poking and prodding. So there's the deep listening. If not, a very good exercise in just reminding of the points on how to use the MLS movement and approach to dance with techniques, to know when to call an audible, how to give those techniques a deeper level of attention and skill set and mastery. And it has just been a blessing, I know, for me and so many others. If there's no other questions.
Thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome, Kiara. Everybody unmute if you want to and say bye to everybody who's going to be watching this in the future and to each other.
Bye, guys.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you. Bye.
Yes. See you guys soon.
See you guys.
All right. Don't forget
everybody.
June in Atlanta with Arno. Come be here.
May in Davenport with Dylan.
Okay,
Oh, yeah.
Dylan. I see you.